And welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Wednesday, May 14th, and today is the day that the NFL flexes its chokehold on the entirety of our collective consciousness by scheduling an announcement of announcing its schedule and getting us all to tune in for 24 hours to learn about when and where the games are going to be played. It's actually quite incredible. Today I want to talk about a couple of comments we got on yesterday's Morning Rush when I broke down the Steelers scheduling their game against the Minnesota Vikings in Dublin, Ireland. So go over there and check that out if you didn't see it already. But a couple comments here, and I kind of want to put some thoughts out into the world about whether international games are good or bad for American fans. And I've got two comments here from a couple of longtime members of the audience that I want to read first before I get into my thoughts. First is from Justin Watson. Justin says, the way the NFL really operates really bothers me. About 40% of families in Pittsburgh metro area have been priced out of the ability to see a game in person since 1991, but they're going to go play in other countries when a significant portion of their most loyal fans will never see a game in person. I didn't go to my first game until I was 22 because I grew up too poor to go to a game, and I live 20 minutes from Acrisure. If they care about growth and long-term viability of the game, NFL teams need to have one game where the top 50% of their seating capacity, usually saved for corporate sponsors, to be affordable for families who can't spend $1,200 on one afternoon out instead. That would get these franchises infinitely more goodwill than traveling the world to pander to rich people in other countries. Randy Tobias says, I feel like the NFL is so hell-bent on lining their pockets by having these international games. They should pony up the cost for verified reporters to be able to go cover the games like they normally would. I know you are in favor of these games, but I still feel like there is some idiocy behind them. Imagine how well-run would think the NFL is if the Steelers were playing the Eagles in a regular season game, but it's in California. If the NFL is going out of its way to make games as inconvenient as possible for anyone related to either team playing, the NFL should be doing everything possible it can to mitigate these inconveniences. So a couple of interesting and not necessarily the same wavelength thoughts. Of course, Randy replying to me saying yesterday that I don't think I'm going to go to Ireland because it can't make a business case to do so. It will cost a lot more money than it's going to earn the website. And I've been to Ireland and don't need a vacation. Actually, I desperately do need a vacation, but I don't need that vacation. Uh, so let's talk about the idea that international games hurt local fans, because I actually think it's the opposite. So when you think about the Steelers or an NFL team that you're a fan of, I assume most of you are fans of Steelers. It's Steelers podcast, but whatever. They're just one of 32. The salary cap is even for every team. Every team can spend up to the salary cap, but every team needs to make the money to get to the salary cap. Now, they make a lot of money from TV rights, okay? But that money is the same for every team. And then the rest of the money has to come from local fans. Ticket sales, jersey sales, things that the team has some level of control over what the price is. And by the way, I don't think it's $1,200 to go to a Steeler game. My sister has tickets in the upper deck, and I think they're less than $100 a piece. So, is that a lot of money? I'm not saying it's not, but it's certainly not anywhere near $1,200. So the only way the team can handle increasing salary caps is by increasing revenue, right? Like the only way for the league to make more money is for revenue to go up. So when you look at that salary cap, every Steelers fan is paying a piece of that salary cap. Some are paying bigger pieces than others. If you've got 50 tickets on the 50-yard line, you own a big piece of it. If you've got one seat in the upper deck, you own a small piece of it. And if you just simply pay for cable so that you can watch all the games, you have a tiny piece of it, but you still have a piece, right? The more Steelers fans that are out there in the world, the smaller your share of that cost will be in the long run. So if the Steelers so if the NFL wants to make more money and they're not going to grow internationally, then they have to charge domestic users more money, right? That's the only way the league can grow. The league can grow revenue by charging the fans it has more, or by making more fans. Those are the only two ways forward. And I don't think you need me to tell you that the league is not okay with not growing revenue, just like any other business. So the only ways to grow revenue are to charge your existing fans more or find new ways to charge your existing fans, which is basically the same thing, or grow the number of fans. So the NFL can make money by growing fans in other countries. Then those fans will pay their cable subscribers to watch. And then the NFL will make money on international cable rights in addition to domestic cable rights. And that is going to reduce the financial burden of domestic Steelers fans compared to the whole. It's still going to go up over time. Everything goes up over time. Your car does cost more than it used to. Your house costs more than it used. Nothing ever goes the other way. But having a more international fan base allows the local fans to pay a smaller share of the whole. Otherwise, they're paying all of it. Does that make it inconvenient for local fans to go to if you want to go to every game? Yeah. But I think that's two different arguments, right? Like nobody who's crying poor about the ability to watch an NFL game is also upset about the inability to watch every NFL game, right? I mean, like one is a first world problem as one is not. I think there's and I think you're hearing from maybe on people both ends of this that are upset. Like if you're someone who wants to go to every Steelers game and now one of them is going to cost you $1,000 to go to, I think you have a point. I don't think this hurts the entry level fan though. Most people only go into a couple games a year anyway. In fact, attendance, NFL wide is basically static. Like a lot of teams struggle to sell all their tickets. The Steelers are not one of them. But taking home games away from home teams is not something that most NFL teams are just super upset about. Like they're just not. Like the Jacksonville Jaguars play extra games in London because they want to, because they can't sell their tickets, and they're far from the only team that can't fill their own stadium on a regular basis. And as the game has gotten much better and better to watch at home on your screen, I think the in-stadium experience has suffered comparatively. I mean, I don't think football is that much better to watch live than it is on television compared to like a sport like hockey, for example. So, I don't think there's a big priority from the NFL on in-person experience for local audience anyway, because the local audiences around the country, not saying Steelers fans are like this, are telling them it's not that important to them. Most NFL fans consume the product on television. Most NFL fans aren't that interested in sitting in a stadium for 4 hours. And so television drives the decisions. And I do think there is like a snowball effect here where because television drives the decisions, then the in-person experience gets degraded further. Things like flex scheduling, that make it more difficult for people to attend games. And then people care even less. And then you go and go. I do think that's the thing. The one last thing I want to touch on before I run here is Justin's point about making tickets available for inexpensively. I do think that is something that the Steelers have tried to do over the last couple of years. They have sort of tapped into some student ticket sales. I think there is definitely an area for the idea of having a sort of reserve of inexpensive tickets for local fans to try to give people the opportunity to go to a game that don't usually. And I think we're getting there, right? I think that if you talk about that process and the way I think it's going to play out over time, right? TV is more important. TV drives the decisions, even less demand for people to go to like I think you're going to comparatively see the cost of being able to watch every game rise and the cost of attending games fall comparatively, inflation and things of that nature, over the next 10 years. I think you're going to have to, in order to watch every game, I think you're going to have to subscribe to different streaming services and things of that nature. I think it's going to be more difficult and more expensive to watch every game because that's where the growth is. And I think it will become cheaper to see games in person. I think that's where we're heading. All right. Interesting discussion. I love it when the audience brings the discussion to me. First of all, it makes my job a lot easier because then I don't have to come up with something to talk about. But the second of all, I love meeting you guys where you are, and I feel like that really happened in a good way today. So cool schedule release coming out. But before then, me and Smitty on the afternoon drive at 6. Got a cool guest we're hoping to have with us about the Steelers Ireland game. So stay tuned for that. And then don't forget also Thursday at 6, Steelers plus live stream with me, Smitty, DB, plus maybe more. And I had a couple questions about this. So, yes, if you cannot be with us live, obviously you can't participate in the live stream, but the recording will stay on the website in the subscribers only section where you can go back and watch it whenever, wherever. So, definitely go over to SteelersNow.com, click on the membership tab in the top right, get yourself signed up for SM Plus for Thursday's live stream. Should be a lot of fun. We really enjoyed the last one. Looking forward to doing it again. Until then, that's all I got for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and enjoy.